Welcome back. I hope you're doing well. I am excited to bring part 2 of this series of infamous people in Trinidad and Tobago's history, and we're gonna have fun. This one is good, a good lineup. Before we begin, I just wanted to say thank you for your support, and if you have any comments to leave in the comment section, let's keep the comment section a respectful place where we can make our points and have our discussions in a very respectful and engaging way. I really want the comment section to be a place where we can have discussions and not arguments. So let's get into the video. Alright, we're starting off hot. We have Mr. Randolph Burrows, who was the police commissioner from 1978 to 1987. At least that's what I read. His reputation is so pervasive that people still talk about him to this day. He was known for his no-nonsense tactics of shooting first and asking questions later. He served the country during a particularly dangerous time when the National Union of Freedom Fighters gang was running rampant. They were committing bank robberies, murder, robbing people on the streets. I think I even read kidnapping at some point too. And he was ready to handle the situation. He had an elite squad called the Flying Squad, and together they suppressed a lot of crime, killing at least 18 members of the Nuff gang. But they also had a reputation for extreme violence and extrajudicial killings. Some hailed him as a hero, someone who was cleaning up the streets, but a lot of other people condemned him for his violent ways and his involvement in alleged corruption. Some even saying that he was related to Dolce in some way and protected him from being arrested a lot of times. Burrows' reign came to an end when the 1986 Scott drug report was published, which implicated 52 police officers in corruption and crime. Later, he was charged with conspiracy to traffic cocaine, but that case fell through for lack of evidence. He was also charged with conspiracy to murder, but that also fell through. Burrows retired early and died at the age of 66 on October 9th, 1996. Next, we have Dr. Dalip Singh. Dr. Singh thought he could get away with the perfect crime. He met his wife, Ing Brown, in Scotland when he was getting his qualifications as a doctor. They married and returned to Trinidad and Tobago. Everything seemed perfect for them until April 6, 1954, when they both got into an argument and Dr. Singh ended up strangling his wife to death. But he didn't leave it there. He decided to get away with this crime. He needed to remove her intestines, stitch her back up, and then deposit her body in the sea. Now it is not known who helped him to dispose of her body, but some people say that he was related somehow to Boise Singh and Boise helped him to dispose of the body, but this has not been confirmed. The next day, her body floated up in Freeman's Bay in Otaheite. Dr. Singh visited the coroner, who at the time was Dr. Burrows. The weird part is Dr. Singh pretended not to be able to identify the body. However, his maid identified her body right away. So this raised major red flags. It took 14 months, but the police were able to compile the evidence to convict him of her murder. He was hanged on June 28, 1955. Next, we have Jean Miles. Now today, she would not be an infamous person in our community. In fact, I regard her as a hero. But in the 60s and 70s, people thought she was the villain, when actually she was the hero. In the 60s, Jean was a civil servant. She first worked in the Ministry of Petroleum, then she became a first-class clerk in the factory inspectorate under the Labor Department. Jean was smart and observant, and she realized something was not right as she found major discrepancies in application forms, gas station applications. Her testimony in the Commission of Inquiry in 1967 blew the lid right off of the entire corruption scheme. This resulted in a lot of persons being fired and charged with corruption. And although she did the right thing, she suffered for it. So many people dragged her name through the mud, saying that she was a traitor, that she was the villain, and that she is the one who should have minded her business and kept her mouth shut. Her life was threatened. She and her mother were held at gunpoint. She was fired from the civil service without benefits, and she was made a pariah of the community. She stood up against corruption but ended up the villain, and this led to her experiencing depression, turning to alcoholism, having mental breakdowns, and having to spend time in mental hospitals. Jean tragically passed away in her sleep at the age of 42 on December 8th, 1972. Now, I've heard a lot of people comment and say this is the exact reason why they would never come forward with any information, because they don't want to end up like her. But I just want to say, like, nowadays we have more access to information and a lot more access to support, especially with the internet. So don't be afraid if you uncover something that isn't right. Now we have a little more support and can build up a little more support for ourselves on the internet. And what happened to her was wrong, and she's actually a hero. But for decades, people drug her name through the mud, and she was infamous during her time. Next, we have Dennis Stafford, who earned himself the name the most dangerous man in Britain. In 1957, he was serving a 7-year sentence in a British prison for breaking and entering. But he was really smart, and he escaped. For a short time, he hid out in Britain, actually having a successful business. But one day, somebody recognized him, and he decided he needed to flee. And where did he choose to hide out? None other than Trinidad and Tobago. I guess he figured nobody would look here for him. And for a while, he got away with it, having a time on the social scene at that time. He was charming and wealthy and good looking, and people really seemed to like him. He lived in the Bergerac Hotel in Maraval, and he actually was living a pretty good life down here. Although one day, I guess an ex-girlfriend really needed to express her love, so she sent a telegram to tell him that. But the British police were actually monitoring her and realized that she sent it to Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. So they came to Trinidad and they found him. With the help of local police officers, they brought him in and carted him off to Britain. He served out his sentence, and when he was released, he went back to a life of crime, even committing a murder, which he was convicted of, but only spent 12 years for that crime. Upon his release, he lived the rest of his life crime-free, I think, and also proclaimed his innocence, but nobody believed him. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you liked it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Comment below respectfully what you thought about the people in the video, if you knew everybody in it. And until next time, look out for part 3.